It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the Box, presented by GotLitlight Installers. Glad to have you along for the ride today. Please subscribe to YouTube and on your favorite podcast app if you have not done so. Please smash the like button. If you are watching on YouTube, do me a solid. Helps the video out, obviously, tremendously. And please, as always, of course, share. That is greatly appreciated as well. Okay. For today, we are going to have a conversation that is going to be decidedly less fun to have after LSU was run-ruled against Northwestern State. Not because the result of the game Tuesday night has any bearing on the conversation that we're going to have, but more so because the performance that you saw was flat, did lack energy, definitely lacked execution, and it has you feeling no better about this LSU baseball team than you did a week ago heading into their biggest stretch of the season. Said it after the game on Tuesday night, really early Wednesday morning when we were doing the live stream. LSU has some soul searching to do. And before the games even get started on Friday, Wednesday and Thursday are probably the two biggest days of LSU's season because they have to do that soul searching. They have to get back to work, and they got to figure it out quickly because Tennessee starts your toughest stretch of the season. But the conversation I still want to have today, because I had it planned out to do anyway, was LSU's path to a top 8 national seed, because all of that is still on the table. Even with your struggles as of late, all of that is still on the table. And even if you drop a few, it's still on the table with some of the deep dive and the digging that I've done here that we'll get into on today's show. I know that is hard to wrap your head around right now for some, others maybe not so much. But it's what LSU is striving for. They have not been eliminated from that. And even with their struggles, things can change on a dime in baseball, especially in college baseball. Y'all, it was just 2 weeks ago that LSU was 31-3. And all of this just felt like a foregone conclusion. I'm not hand-waving away problems. I think we've talked about the problems plenty here. And that's why Wednesday and Thursday, before you even get to Friday night against Tennessee, are the two most important days of your season. So where does LSU stand heading into that series and this stretch? Just to, again, demonstrate that the loss on Tuesday night doesn't really impact this conversation. I know we have to kind of do this every year, and quite honestly, the conversation's exhausting, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. We will reference throughout this show D1 Baseball's latest projected field of 64. That dropped on Tuesday afternoon, so even before LSU's game against Northwestern State. In that projection, LSU was projected the number 4 national seed, firmly in the top 8. Firmly in the top 8. You had a RPI of 6. After the loss Tuesday night, LSU's RPI dropped to 12, which isn't horrible at all. To demonstrate that, you're one spot behind Tennessee, your opponent this weekend, who was projected the number 5 overall national seed. Firmly in at 11 and at 12, respectively. So that should ease all of your concern. What is of utmost importance is LSU starting to play baseball better, getting back to where they have been at points this season against really good competition, and doing that in a hurry so they can reach their goals. All right, so this 3-series stretch, we know what it is. We've talked about it all the way back since the preseason. You can go find it. home against Tennessee, at Texas A&M, home against Arkansas. LSU right now is part of 5 projected top 8 national seeds from the SEC. That would be the second year in a row the SEC would get 5 if D1's projections are, if they track, right? The interesting thing with this conversation is how the addition of Texas and Oklahoma into the league changed the way the selection committee views the SEC. Do you get more teams in as a whole? Probably. In this projection from D1 Baseball, there's 13 SEC teams projected in. So, yeah, the league expands. It gets even better. The competition ratchets up. You would expect to get more teams overall. Will it lead to more national seeds? That's really going to be the interesting answer. Because, look, outside of the league right now, outside of the SEC, it's Clemson, Florida State, and Oregon State. There's not a lot of competition outside of the SEC, really for a top 8 spot. You can throw North Carolina in there, that's fine. But then you get back into Georgia and Auburn and all those teams that are projected host sites right now. So it stands to reason that, yes, the SEC can get 5 again. Would they get 6? I don't think so, but that's really just because of the standings as they are. There's a pretty clear demarcation in the top 5 in the league, and it is, Texas, Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. After that, you get into a crop of teams that are 10 and 8. Not to say those teams couldn't play their way in to the top 8 conversation if some of these top 5 slip, and we'll get into the schedules, and there's plenty of way for them to slip, including LSU. But I went back and I did some digging. I started in 2024, and I went back the last 5 NCAA tournaments. I could have kept going, but I stopped at 5 because, quite honestly, the point was already made through 5. And it wasn't going to show you anything differently the further back I went. Maybe when we get closer to the NCAA tournament, we can go further back depending on where LSU is outside of this stretch. But in those 5 NCAA tournaments, 2024, 2023, 22, 21, 2019, because obviously there was none in 2020 because of COVID, the SEC had a total of 19 top 8 national seeds. Those 19 were broken down by SEC wins, 20 or more, so 20 plus, because as we've always said, your baseline to really be a lock is 20 and 10. 13 of the 19 had 20 or more wins in conference play. Highlighted by Tennessee in 2022, who went 25 and 5, and that actually screwed everything up for the league. Vanderbilt in 19 went 23 and 7. Tennessee and Kentucky a year ago were 22 and 8. So those are the 4 separators. Everyone else had 20 or 21 wins. And the only team with 21 wins was Georgia in 19. Everybody else was 20 and 10. You get to 20 and 10, you are a lock. 5 out of those 19 had 19 victories, including Texas A&M a year ago, who was 19 and 11, including in 2023 when both Vanderbilt and LSU got into the top 8 with 19 wins apiece. A&M had 19. They were 19 and 11 in 2022. And in 2021, Vanderbilt was 19 and 10. Now, throw a caveat out there. Vanderbilt in 21, LSU in 23, both had an SEC game canceled. So theoretically, they were pacing for 20-10, but they had a game canceled. And you could have ended up 20-10 or 19-11. The game was canceled. You fell 19-10. The only year that we went back and didn't have a team get in at 19 wins was 2019. And for what it's worth, let me just double check this real quick. But in 2019, I don't believe, I'm getting there. Apologies. I should have wrote this part down. In 2019, there wasn't a team with 19 wins. You had Vandy, Georgia, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Arkansas, all at 20 or more wins. The next highest win total was LSU at 17-13. So you didn't even have the opportunity for that to happen. So 20 or more wins, you're a lock. 13 out of the last 19 teams that were top 8 national seeds had that. 5 out of those 19 had 19 wins. And there's even one instance of a team with 17 wins in the SEC getting them in to the top 8. And that is Georgia a year ago. The Bulldogs were 17-13. And you must be thinking, Georgia must have gone on this incredible run down the stretch. Yes and no. Georgia, from the end of April through the very beginning of through May, into the last weekend, so the end of April through the month of May, they had won 8 straight SEC games. So they did go on a big run there. But that got them to 17 wins. They closed the season losing 2 out of 3 to Florida, so losing their last 2, where if they would have won them, that would have gotten them to 19. But instead they lost, so that got them to 17-13. And then they lost the LSU game 1 in the SEC tournament. And they still got there. They had a great RPI, and they did enough down the stretch to impress the committee. That is certainly an outlier. But it does set precedents, especially if the SEC gets 5 in, which they're projected. Do not misunderstand me. I am not telling you if LSU has 17 SEC wins, they're going to be a national seed. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is there is precedent for it, depending on where LSU's RPI is, how everything looks, how they got to those 17 wins, things of that nature. I don't think LSU would get in because given what they have going forward, you would have lost a lot of series to get to those 17 wins. Like you would have probably lost, if my math off the top of my head is correct here real quick, you would have split your Final Four series 2-2. And that would get you there. That ain't going to look good to the committee. But there is precedent there. All right. So what does LSU need to do to get to those 19 wins? Is it as big of an uphill climb as it seems right now, given performance and the daunting schedule ahead? Let's dive into that. First, let me remind you about GotLitlight installers, GotLitlights.com. You go to GotLitlights.com. You get your quote. It works for you. And then you turn everything over to Derek and his team. The only thing you bring to the table is what you want, your design, your vision, and they make it a reality. Whether it is illuminating your exterior of your home, outdoor backyard, front yard, permanent landscape lighting is available. It's springtime. You're working in the flower beds. You want to take them to the next level. You've already added the pop of color. You really want to add the illumination. GotLitlight installers, they have you covered there. Maybe you just put in a pool, and this is going to be your first spring and summer with the pool, but you still need the lights in your outdoor pool area or patio. GotLitlight installers. Temporary outdoor lighting, for a private event. Graduations are right around the corner. Y'all, it is April the 23rd. Graduations are a month, less than a month away. I know you have grads in your family. You're probably throwing them a party. There's going to be some outdoor flair to that. You need some temporary lighting. GotLitlight Installers has you covered. They want you to be a customer for life, and they make it really easy for you to do that because they take your design, they install, they maintain the lights, they can tear down if it's temporary, and store it as well. They want you to be a customer for life, and they make it very easy for you to be a customer for life at GotLitlight Installers. Trust me, go work with Derek and his team. See what all the hype is about. It won't take long, and you will not be disappointed. It is GotLitlight Installers, GotLitlights.com. Tell them you heard it right here on Musso at the Box. All right. Now we can get into some of the schedule talk. We know what LSU has. LSU has Tennessee at home. Then they go to A&M, who's the hottest team in the country right now and nobody wants to see. And then Arkansas comes to Baton Rouge. And then you go to South Carolina. But these next 3 weeks are going to determine where you're playing postseason baseball, if it's at home or on the road, and how long you're playing postseason baseball where you are playing it. That was a weird way to say that, but I think you understand. This will determine if you are a top 8 national seed or not the next 3 weeks, starting with Tennessee on Friday. LSU right now is at 12-6. They are pacing for 20-10. I know nobody wants to hear that because of how they are playing, but LSU is pacing for 20-10. Until they aren't, that's what we have to roll with, and that's where they are, and it's a great spot to be, especially given your struggles as of late. What LSU needs to do is win 2 of the next 3 series. That's the easiest way to get to this. If you take 2 out of 3 from Tennessee at home, that puts you at 14-7. You take 2 out of 3 at home against Arkansas, that would put you at 16-8. And if you drop the series on the road at A&M, but you win 1 and you don't get swept, we'll just backtrack. I know I did that out of order, but we'll backtrack. That would put you at 17-10. Heading to South Carolina, where you have a real chance to take 2 out of 3 on the road or even sweep. That is not a good baseball team. And if you take 2 out of 3, that puts you at 19-11, and you're in a really good spot. You sweep it in this scenario, you're at 20-10, and you're a lock. That is the path forward. That would be 5-4 in the league down the stretch. I know that doesn't make everybody happy and just get everybody jazzed. But given that final stretch you have, if you end up at 19-11, I would call you a lock. Because your RPI is going to be through the roof. And you will have beaten elite baseball teams to get there. But for me, the easiest path there is to win your 2 home series against Tennessee and Arkansas, because LSU is hard to beat at home. They've only lost 3 games at home all season long. They've only lost 1 in conference play at home all season long. The atmospheres for those 2 series should be incredible. There should not ever be a lack of energy. And home field should matter for you there. On the road at A&M is going to be really tough. And then South Carolina, you are so far and away better than that team. If you lose that series on the road, you don't deserve to be a top 8. 5-4 down the stretch. That's going to do it for you. Can this team do that? I think that they can. I think that they can. The other thing to consider is who you're competing against. And right now, we'll look at the other 4 teams. And y'all, the stretches that they have are absolutely insane. Start with Arkansas. Arkansas this weekend goes to Florida, who's playing better. Then they face Texas, have a road trip to LSU, and then close the season at home with Tennessee. It stands to reason Arkansas isn't going to win all of those series. But what's important to note is just like LSU, they're competing, their series are against teams they're competing with for these national seeds. Like Texas, like LSU, like Tennessee. Arkansas slips up, that creates another spot for someone else, including you, if you have a little bit of slippage. How about Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt is at Swayze this weekend to face Ole Miss. Then they face a top 20 Alabama team. Then they have to go to Tennessee, and then they wrap up with a home series against Kentucky, who just beat Tennessee and hasn't been swept all year, and damn near beat Texas in a series. But again, Vanderbilt, the only one you're really competing with for a national seed there is Tennessee. Texas right now is a lock to be a national seed. But they have the hot Aggies coming in this weekend, who no one wants to see. Then they're at Arkansas. Then they face a Florida team that's playing better. And then they close the season at Oklahoma. It stands to reason Texas is not going to win all of those series. And if they do, you tip your hat to them. They were a lot better than any of us thought. But at 16-2, they feel like a lock. They need 3 more conference wins. They can get that. 4 more really to be a lock. They can get that in that stretch. So don't expect them to fall. And then there's Tennessee. And Tennessee, obviously, we know has LSU. Then they have to face a very game Auburn squad, then Vandy, and then again they wrap up at Arkansas, as we already established with Arkansas' schedule. So not only do you need to go 5-4 to get to 19 and feel pretty good, 6-4 would get you to 20 and you'd be a lock, but the teams you're competing with also have treacherous roads ahead. The teams you're competing with also have a backloaded schedule for the most part. So that also should ease it. The playing field is level right now in the top 8 conversation in terms of schedule. So this could very well fluctuate. But the point of this whole conversation is to show you the 2 numbers to really keep in the forefront of your mind are 19 wins in league and 20. If you can get to more than 20, awesome. You've really done something big. Now, the other part of that is the play on the field for LSU absolutely has to improve. And you might be saying to yourself, this is all well and good, Musso. You've laid all this out. That's great. You're just pumping sunshine. This team's terrible. They have no chance to beat Tennessee. If you feel that way, I can't help you. But what I will say is, go back a year ago. Go back a year ago. Put yourself in the shoes of that team. To really, right around this point in the season. LSU was fighting to get in to the SEC tournament. Was fighting to get into the NCAA tournament. Not even near a national seed team. That team a year ago had a lot more problems than this one does in 2025. And when you got to this point in the season, week 7, you were staring down the barrel of number 1 Texas A&M coming into the box. And they had every advantage in that series over you. And you got some breaks, and you got some elite performances, and at home, you took 2 out of 3 in that weekend. And ultimately, that went a long, long way. A long, long way to you making it into the NCAA tournament field. It's not fun to look at LSU right now. They aren't playing good baseball. That is inarguable. And I will never tell you to the contrary that they are playing good baseball, because they're not. You got to get some guys going in the lineup. You have got to figure out how to manufacture runs with runners in scoring position, not just get hits. You need more consistency out of your bullpen from more guys. Right now, you've been able to get by because at least one other guy besides Cowan or Evans has stepped up in a game and been able to bridge you or get you an out or steal you an inning or something along those lines. Each game that's been able to really happen for you in your wins. But you need more consistency there. You now have an issue with your third starting spot. And again, all the offensive issues that we kind of touched on there to start. But it's baseball. Do I think Tennessee is better than LSU? Yes, I do. I've said that 4 or 5 times already since we've turned the page to this week. I do. I thought Texas A&M was better than LSU a year ago. I know LSU is better than Northwestern State. The better team doesn't always win. But the breaks also aren't happening for LSU right now either. They're going to have to turn this around in 2 days' time and get ready to start this stretch and get back to playing the type of baseball that we are capable of, that we know they are capable of for any of what we have laid out to happen. You have to go 1 game above 500 in the league in your final 4 weekends to get to 19 wins. That doesn't seem too daunting. But with the way they're playing, that makes it feel a whole lot more daunting. We'll see how it goes. But that's where you stand heading into the biggest stretch of your season, the most important stretch of your season. And that's ultimately why I wanted to lay everything out here today before we get to that stretch. Y'all smash the like button, please, on your way out if you have not already. Please get subscribed to the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app. Please share. That is so, so important. And I'm very grateful when any of you do share the link to the podcast or to the YouTube channel. It's greatly appreciated. Go to GotLitlight installers, GotLitlights.com, and be here next time for more. We're previewing LSU in Tennessee on Musso at the Box.